What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a brand new Liverpool news video where we will have the latest updates on Liverpool's takeover and also transfer updates regarding the Jude Bellingham transfer story and also Enzo Fernandez. So lots of new information packed in this video, and according to the Telegraph newspaper, Sam Wallace, who is a chief football writer of the Telegraph, he's a very well-respected journalist, I even follow him on Twitter, and he said that the Premier League will not change the rules and regulations to prevent a potential Saudi Arabia takeover of Liverpool or even Manchester United. And he's reporting that because the Premier League are planning to change some of the owners and directors test, which is basically the test before a takeover happens, and it happened with Newcastle and it happened of course with Man City and Chelsea, that the takeover wasn't prevented by the Premier League. And I have a very strong opinion on those. As soon as you let the likes of Roman Abramovich and United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi take over Man City, Saudi Arabia taking over Newcastle, you can't really prevent a future takeover of a similar kind happen to another Premier League clubs. Otherwise it would be very unfair to have Saudi Arabia owning Newcastle, United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi specifically owning Man City, and then you maybe another Saudi Arabia investment group comes along, and according to other newspapers, FSG will lower their asking price to around £3 billion, so it attracts more buyers because they want to sell Liverpool sooner or later. And according to Sam Wallace, the Premier League has no plans to include regulations in their owners and directors test that would prevent a Saudi investor taking control of either Man United or Liverpool. The clubs are yet to agree to the terms, but the test which all prospective owners and directors must pass, and the Telegraph newspaper understands that its current draft will not preclude individuals on the basis of a political or human rights record of their country or of origin. So even if with the countries with the worst human rights records possible, they are allowed to take over Premier League clubs. This is basically voted by all Premier League clubs, and the Premier League only cares about money and no morals or ethics. And I think English and UK politics are intertwined with Saudi Arabia. They have an arms deal with Saudi Arabia dating back more than 10 or maybe even 15 years, worth billions of pounds, that basically the UK is selling weapons to Saudi Arabia and they bomb Yemen with it. So there is all kinds of questionable deals happening even in politics and also in football because of it. And the Saudi sports minister told the BBC this week that he is encouraging bids from Saudi Arabia towards the takeover of the two biggest clubs in English football and two of the biggest clubs in world football, Liverpool and Manchester United. The Saudi Arabia's public investment fund was finally given permission, of course, to buy Newcastle United in October last year, following a long legal process. And then the Premier League executive had sought assurances from PIF that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would not be the ultimate owner of Newcastle, and they were given legally binding assurances that was the case. But it's just paperwork and legal terminology. The real owner of Newcastle and who makes the real decisions is still the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. I think because the Premier League has done this with Newcastle, basically the same would be the case if a Saudi bidder was successful in a takeover to own and buy Liverpool. So if a Saudi investment firm buys Liverpool, then the Premier League would not prevent it happening. And that's ultimately good news for us Liverpool fans, because I think we want the best and most competitive owner to own Liverpool. And for example, on yesterday's video where I said I'm fed up with FSG, like 80 or 90% of you guys who commented on that video agreed with me. And I always read your comments, even though I don't have time always to reply to every single one of them. I read them and I take notes, so let me know what is your opinion on all this news and everything that we talk about in this video. I want your opinion on all the things that are discussed in this video. And the government said that any independent regulator for football would not be asked to make decisions that did not align with government foreign policy in its response to the Member of Parliament Tracy Crouch's fan-led review into football governance. At the time, the then Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries said in a response to the review that a regulator backed by legislation would have its scope limited. He said it is important for the regulator to do due diligence. There is a danger that the regulator could be drawn into issues that are geopolitical. We do not believe the regulator should get involved in issues of the government's foreign policy. And of course, the Premier League's chief executive Richard Masters acknowledged at the start of the season that the league has consulted with Amnesty International over a human rights element to the owners and directors test. The Premier League is still considering what it says is a subjective test of some kind of prospective owners, and the final draft has not been approved yet. But there is little appetite for such a subjective test from among the clubs who want to keep all their options open when it comes to the sale. And that's the thing, all these changes in the regulations of an owners and directors test, it has to be approved by all Premier League clubs. And why would the Premier League clubs basically vote against themselves? Because if they vote to stop these kind of ownership takeovers happen, then they would vote against them. Why would they want to prevent Saudi Arabia kind of takeover happening at another club? It doesn't make sense, because already we have, as I said, 3 mega rich clubs in the Premier League through Chelsea, Man City and Newcastle. So yeah, this is the case, and let me know what you think about this in the comments below. And some journalists reports that it is unlikely that a private investor from Saudi Arabia would be blocked if he wanted to take over Liverpool, as long as similar assurance was offered to the Premier League that the PIF made. And I mean, the PIF is the biggest and the most important investment fund of Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So if they were allowed to take over Newcastle United, then if another private investment group wants to take over the Liverpool, then it will be allowed. So I really hope that this happens. The US owners of Premier League clubs have been accused of working together privately, especially on Project Big Picture, the plan to rebuild the balance of power in the Premier League. The current owners and directors test in Section F of the Premier League rules lays out a number of criteria that preclude a prospective owner taking control of a club. Many of them relate to financial history, but include a ban on anyone who has committed a crime overseas that, while permitted in that territory, would be considered illegal under British law. But if it's a private sector investment group, then it's almost impossible under current rules and regulations for the Premier League to prevent those kind of takeovers happening. According to the Mail on Sunday, FSG have lowered their asking price for Liverpool to $3 billion, not £3 billion. Sorry, I was wrong in saying that earlier in this video. I apologize for that. So the sources have told the Mail on Sunday that FSG have been engaged in secret talks with many different investment groups, according to them, Qatari investment groups, Saudi Arabia investment groups, American investment groups as well, and they have been talking with these interested parties for weeks. And of course, Jude Bellingham's price will rise after a stellar World Cup campaign, and according to Fabrizio Romano, Liverpool are also interested in Enzo Fernandez, but Benfica just signed him in the summer from, I think, the Argentinian league, and the release clause included into Fernandez's contract is worth 120 million euros, and Benfica have no intention to sell Enzo Fernandez in January. River Plate also have a percentage of future sale on Enzo Fernandez. That's where he used to play, River Plate, one of the biggest clubs in Argentina. And Enzo Fernandez is also having a brilliant World Cup, so his price is going to go up massively as well. And of course, after it was announced that Julian Ward is leaving the head of the transfer committee at the end of the season, one name that has constantly popped up is Arsenal's and Borussia Dortmund's former chief scout Sven Mislintat, and he has a pretty amazing record. At Dortmund, he brought in Robert Lewandowski, Shinji Kagawa, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Ilkay Gundogan, Mats Hummels. So brilliant deals. But he also has some bad decisions on his CV as well, because Arsenal's infamous swap deal for Henrik Mkhitaryan that saw Alexis Sanchez go to Man United when he was in the last year of his contract, that was a pretty shocking deal as well. But I think he has more great decisions on his CV than bad decisions, and quite frankly he has pretty much an insane collection of talent under his name that he negotiated transfer deals for, and the most of them went to Borussia Dortmund. So he could be actually a good replacement instead of Julian Bord, and there have been suggestions that Liverpool could move away from a model of sustainability and towards competing for higher caliber players. Once the takeover happens, Liverpool would want to sign more ready-made players who are at the peak of their careers or entering their peak of their careers, 24, 25, 26, 27-year-old players who can come in and straight away be a starting 11 player. And I mean, Thiago has been a brilliant and very successful transfer in my opinion. He revitalized and transformed our midfield department as well. And he was like 29 years old when we signed him. I think Liverpool will target that age bracket of between 24 and 27 years old, hopefully after the takeover happens. And if Liverpool is sold, then Liverpool needed a sporting director who can reflect our potentially newfound flexibility and spending power in the market, an ability to secure brilliant players on the cheap that the club can grow. Of course, that always comes in handy. So Liverpool won't get away from that strategy too much, but getting the big calls right, and that is like signing players between 50 and 100 million pounds, big players. Getting all of those right and signing the right kind of players is absolutely crucial, because Liverpool, even potentially with new owners, I don't think we will ever be in a luxurious position that Newcastle or Man City or PSG find themselves in, that they can sign as many 50 million pound players as they want. It won't distract and it won't hurt their future transfer spending, even if half of them fail. I don't see Liverpool getting owners who will be able to do that, because we would have to be taken over by a whole country, and FSG I don't think will allow that to happen. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Let me know what is yours in the comments below, and thanks for watching guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a nice day. See you later. Goodbye.